Hey there, it's Clay with RelationshipInnerGame.com. Today we're talking about 5 signs that you still have a chance to get back together with your ex. And this is by no means an exhaustive list by any stretch of the imagination. So don't think like, oh, well, I don't have any of those signs, or I only have one of those things, or whatever. Therefore, I have no chance whatsoever. It's not that way at all, I promise you. But these are some 5 of the biggest signs that are an indication that you still have a chance to work things out with your ex, okay? So let's get into this. The first one is that your ex still has feelings for you, okay? Now notice I didn't say they still love you or they still enjoy spending time with you, but that they still have feelings, any kind of feeling, right? Even if that feeling is anger or frustration or anything like that, it just shows that there's still that emotional charge when they are interacting with you, when they're thinking of you or anything like that. And that is really important because you can actually leverage that emotional charge through the advanced relational skills that we teach over at RelationshipInnerGame.com. And you can use that to leverage that and sort of help to unbox that negative emotion, even if it's anger or something like that, and help to turn it into an opportunity for connection and a much more desirable emotion like love or joy or something like that, right? So that is the first sign that you still have a chance with your ex. Now, the second sign is that there is not a significant amount of friction, or an unsurmountable amount of friction, rather. So what do I mean by friction? What is friction? And that's where there are just sort of lifestyle incongruencies between you and your ex, where maybe it's like, okay, you might live on opposite sides of the country or something like that, and it's very difficult for you to see each other or spend a lot of time together. And by no means, if that is the case, does it mean your situation is hopeless. There are lots of people who have been in long-distance relationships who have gotten back together. I've seen it, I've watched it, I've witnessed it firsthand, and it's actually not that uncommon. But just know that for certain people, there are going to be certain types of friction that will make it more difficult. Like, for example, it just depends on your own personal values, what's important to you, what you're willing to deal with, etc. But we'll get into that in a moment. But things like distance, things like your family disapproving of your ex or their family disapproving of you, or maybe religious differences, cultural differences, things like that. Those can all add little bits of friction. And if the friction is too great, if there's too much of an incongruency between your lifestyles and your values and stuff like that, then it can make it a little bit more difficult to get back together. So if there isn't too much friction, if both of you are still more or less the same people that were compatible and got together in the first place, then that's definitely going to help out your cause. The third sign that you still have a chance to get back together with your ex is that you have learned how to connect with them on an emotional level. Oftentimes a lot of people will try to connect with their ex on a sexual level, where they're trying to, flirt with each other, or seduce one another, or sleep with one another, or something like that, or kind of get something there to sort of prove that there's still that element of attraction, that element of physical connect. But like we've talked about in other videos and in the past, you really don't have to worry about being put in the friend zone with your ex, okay? So don't think that you need to force that physical connection there in order to give significance to your relationship with them, because I promise you that is already still there, even if they're not talking about it, even if they've told you something like, I'm just not attracted to you, or I just see you as a friend, or something like that. I promise you, you are not in the friend zone, okay? But if you can sort of look past that physical connection and actually connect with them on an emotional level, where the two of you are sharing your emotional experiences, how you're connecting, things along that line, then that's really going to help you get back together with them. Because again, like we've talked about previously, the foundation of a great relationship is a strong emotional connection. Obviously, you need attraction to be there, but because you were together in a relationship previously, I'm going to guess that that attraction is already there, right? And again, don't worry about the friend zone, don't worry about any of that stuff, right? What you want to focus on is the emotional connection first, and then all of the physical attraction, all of the flirting and romance and stuff like that, that'll take care of itself. Now, the fourth sign that you still have a chance with your ex is that you're out of what we call damage control mode, okay? So when you first go through a breakup, most of us, myself included in the past, have been in what I call damage control mode. It's where you're kind of in reaction to everything that your ex does, where they're kind of pulling the strings and sort of, dictating, hey, maybe I don't want to hang out with you this weekend. Maybe I do want to hang out with you. And you're like freaking out because, they changed their mind or whatever. That is what happens when you're in damage control mode, where everything you're doing is sort of in reaction to your ex, in response to your ex. Like you're kind of dancing around them, like you're kind of worried about what their next move is going to be. You're overanalyzing things. You're walking on eggshells, that kind of sort of mindset. And that's what damage control mode is. And it's not really very conducive towards getting back together because it's not really sort of creating a vision of positiveness towards working towards a great relationship together. It's kind of just sort of micromanaging, nitpicking, worrying about this and that, and it's not going to really inspire your ex to want to open up or commit to you, especially because they don't want to feel like they have so much power over you. It's not a great start to building that kind of equal connection in a relationship where both of you feel like you're equals coming together to mutually enrich each other's lives. Instead, when you're kind of in that orientation where you're in reaction or damage control mode towards your ex, they actually feel as if they have a very large power sway over you, and that's not something that's very attractive and not something that's going to really make them want to go out of their way to interact with you or to get back together with you. So what you want to do is get out of damage control mode. And that's stuff that we've talked about in the past. That's stuff that we talk about in extensive detail in our newsletter over at relationshipinnergame.com, etc. And the fifth and final sign that you still have a chance to get back together with your ex is if you are not willing to give up. And I know that oftentimes people will overlook this one. They often say, well, what are the signs that I still have a chance? Is my ex in a rebound relationship, or are they saying that they hate me? And it's all like ex focused, right? But the biggest thing that there is that tells you whether or not you still have a chance is whether or not you are still willing to go after this and not willing to give up. Because if you are kind of having this sort of half-hearted thing where as soon as there's a setback, and I promise you there will be setbacks and challenges along the way towards getting back together. But if you hit one of those challenges, if you hit one of those obstacles or road bumps and you start doubting yourself, you start saying, oh, there's no hope in this situation, he just told me he hates me, or she just told me that we're over for good and I should give up, and maybe I should just, if you do give up, then if you lose hope, if you let that control you, then yeah, of course you're more likely to give up. And of course, if you're more likely to give up, you are less likely to actually get back together, and the smaller your chances are going to be, right? So you have to have this sort of mental toughness, this tenacity, this idea of knowing exactly what it is that you want and being willing to go after it 100%, no matter what sort of road bumps or obstacles or hurdles are thrown in your way along the path. And this is probably the most important sign about whether or not you can still get back together with your ex, about whether or not you still have a chance with your ex. And if you are not willing to give up on your ex and you're willing to do whatever it takes to get back together with them, then here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to go to my website, relationshipinnergame.com, and I'd like you to sign up for our newsletter so that we can help you with strategies and tips and advice to help you get back together with your ex, okay? We send out this newsletter on a daily basis. It covers a lot of different topics, and it helps people through a lot of different challenging situations that frankly most people have never heard of and are completely unequipped to deal with unless they're on this newsletter. So get over to relationshipinnergame.com if you want to get back together with your ex and you're willing to do whatever it takes, and sign up for the newsletter. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.